Welcome everybody to the Edge Rowing Podcast. I'm here with arguably one of the biggest names in the rowing world or the indoor rowing world in terms of following, Shane Farmer, the founder of Dark Horse Rowing. If you've ever looked on how to get faster on the rowing machine online, you've probably seen one of his videos coming up. I'm trying to get close to that ranking on the YouTube search algorithm, but I think I have a bit of work to do. You've probably got the top 300 places, but yeah, Shane, just would love to hear about your story and what you're doing over at Dark Horse Rowing, and yeah, I'm excited to have you here.
Wow, thanks for having me on, man. It's been a long time coming. We've had like in-person meetings, we've had phone calls. This feels appropriate.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, but first off, we'd just love to hear a little bit about how you got started into your rowing journey, Shane. What was it? When did you start? What did it look like? Yeah, talk me through that.
So, I didn't start until college. Rowing had always been one of those I see it at the Olympics, looks cool, looks easy, and but I grew up in Minnesota, so surrounded by water, but rowing was not like a sport. Surrounded by cornfields, so football, baseball, basketball, those were the
Okay.
primary sports. So, got to college, and I foolishly thought that I was going to try to walk on to the baseball team at the University of San Diego.
What
I
position were you?
I was a center fielder. I pitched, but I was not a great pitcher. I was a better center fielder. And I just transferred from another school, the Western State College of Colorado, and was playing club baseball there. So I thought I'd like walk on, get a tryout, make the team. Rest is history. It was not that good. I don't know what I was thinking. And I transferred schools and then missed tryouts because I was a dumb 19-year-old who wasn't paying attention to
Well, you
details.
literally like didn't show up on the day.
I yeah, I didn't bother asking like when tryouts were,
It'll
and I
happen.
found and I like walked into the coach's office the day after and I was like, I'm so sorry. I just transferred. I didn't know. And he's like, better luck next year, kid. And I was
Um,
like, oh man, all like hopes and dreams dashed. And the guy across the hall from me was from Hawaii and he was an outrigger canoe guy, but had been recruited by our coach to row. Our coach did a lot of recruiting from outrigger guys who knew
I
nothing about
actually,
rowing,
I
but
actually,
fitness wise.
we worked with somebody that was getting recruited. They were outrigger rowing to get
Yeah.
recruited to a college. So yeah, I
Yeah.
guess it's a thing. He was pretty
It,
strong, to be fair.
yeah. The thing is though, they have great lungs, but they're predominantly waist up, right? Because
Yeah,
they're fixed lower body. And so like great hinging, but they're massive up top. They're a
yeah.
giant V. Anyways, he was like, well, you're kind of tall and skinny. I was 170 pounds in college. And he's like, have you thought about rowing? I was like, no. He's like, well, come. I think the like uh, opening day festival where like all the sports show up on campus and everybody has a table and they're showing off their sports. He's like, the coach is there. Come with me. I got to go there anyways. You want to talk to him? Sure. So I walk down. They've got a big eight just sitting right in the middle of campus in slings. And I was like, ooh, that's cool. And then there was an information session, and I went and they showed videos of the Olympics and got all hyped up. I was like, this is cool. I want to try this. Tried it. And I distinctly remember I had class at the time when there was like a walk-on tryout. This time I prepped it with the coach ahead of time. I was like, I
Nice.
can't
You
make it.
showed
I have
up.
class. Yeah.
Oh,
So he
right.
was like,
Okay.
oh, he was like, okay, come at this time. And I have a group going then. So I show up and it's the head coach and the assistant coach. I show up in shorts and a t-shirt. And I was like, cool, what am I doing? They put me on the machine, 6,000 meters, go. Just me in the erg room alone with both coaches standing behind me. Just how fast can I go for 6,000 meters? And it
No warm
was
up.
no warm up. No, it was, I think that maybe they asked me if I wanted to warm up, and I was like, I don't know. I don't know what this thing is.
You're the
And they,
coach.
apparently, I don't even remember what my score was. I have no clue. Apparently, it was good enough to like give me a shot and impress the coach. And so yeah, I walked on as what should have been a junior, turned out to be my freshman year again, and and then I just fell in love with the sport. It was like within 6 months, I was hooked, man. I
Yeah.
loved it. and we had a great novice group,
What did you love
mostly true
about
not.
what was it that hooked you? Those first feelings.
Okay, so this I gotta walk back before I can answer that. So
Okay.
my whole life I had, and this goes into this ties into why Dark Horse is called Dark Horse. Um, I was I grew up thinking I was a complete idiot, right?
Oh yeah.
I got terrible grades in school. I was a very so-so athlete, but I loved sport. I loved sport. I was always in something. I was in a sport every single season of every single year from middle school through high school. Never missed a season not being in a sport. But I always rode the pine. I was always backup. I was always special teams. I was never the starter. I
Yeah.
wasn't great. Nobody thought I was great. I never got a second look by a coach. It was like, yes, you're the golden child. And but I just love, like, in my core, sport, like being an athlete meant something to me, and it was way
Yeah.
more important to me than school. I couldn't stand school; it drove me nuts. I didn't participate. I did a really poor job. I just kept my grades like C minus level, good enough to keep playing sports. I think I had the minimum GPA to not get kicked out of sports, and so I had always felt. I guess I never recognized it until I left school and got to college, but I'd never had a great support system of somebody who was like, you can get better. Like, if
Yeah.
you want to improve, you can. Here's the track to do it, or here's what you have to do. And I always had to kind of find it on my own. So,
Mhm.
I'd like guess, to get better at running, I guess I'll just start running on my own during the summers. I'll just go for a 10-mile run. Why? I don't know. 10 miles just sounds like a good number. Um, and so that had kind of been my life. And then I got to college, and my first college, and all of a sudden realized that I liked school if I got to pick what I was studying.
Oh yeah.
And so I went from this horrible GPA in high school to all of a sudden being on the dean's list in college. It was
Wow.
the weirdest like pendulum swing.
You know, that
But
remind like for me, that was I used to think I was average or maybe slightly below average in school. And the big problem for me, the only regret I have as a kid is believing the other kids that said they didn't study before an exam. Because
yeah.
I would genuinely not study, and then they would say they didn't study, and they would get an
Yes.
A. They would get an
Dude.
A, and I'd be like, I got a D. And they didn't study either. They're just so naturally smart. And I remember this one guy, Mikey Rogers, if you're out there. Um, I found out that his mom basically made him study all the time, and he was one of those guys who was just like, I never study, man. I'm like, why would you lie? But then that was a big moment for me. I learned that, oh, people are just lying that they study, and it was kind of
Dude.
empowering.
100%.
Yeah.
I like you saying that, like, gave me like a visceral reaction in
Yeah.
my stomach because all of my friends I just assumed were like just naturally
Yeah.
brilliant
Yeah.
because they said they never studied, and I didn't study,
Wow.
and I
Yeah,
would show
yeah,
up and get a
yeah.
D on a test. I'd be like, and they would get an A. I'd be like, how are you doing
It just,
this?
yeah, that's such a problem, isn't it? It's a problem with like peer-led societies, I guess, in terms of like how kids grow up in some ways of you look to you're just a bunch of kids kind of learning from each other and nobody knows what they're I guess still no one knows what they're doing as adults, but
Yeah, yeah, true.
um
Oh, it's just the blind leading the blind. Um, yeah, man. So, wow, that threw me back. Yes, that exact
yeah,
experience is
yeah,
what I
yeah.
had, and then I got to college, and it was like, oh, nobody's here to save me. I don't have my parents to fall back on. I had left the state. Um, I'm taking on student loans that I'm going to be responsible for. Uh, can we curse on this? Can you curse
Yes.
on your plastic? Okay.
Yes.
I better figure my shit out, right? Like I've got to, if I don't, I have no safety net. Like I'm an idiot. So if I don't figure this out, my career path is nil, and my options are, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what my
Yeah.
options are. It's going to be bottom of the barrel. So
No choice, yeah.
all of a sudden, like academics improve, and I joined club baseball while I was there, and
And that came down to you picking what you liked. You
yeah,
think, just your
yeah,
interest going
yeah,
into it.
because I was a kinesiology major, and I was like, oh, I kind of really like the human body and studying human performance and physiology and the body, and I signed up as student athletic trainer at the school. It was called work study, and so you would get paid, and it would help offset your student loans.
Okay.
And so I was a student athletic trainer and I loved it, man. It was so cool. Like learning to work with athletes,
Yeah.
learning to tape ankles, learning to, stretch, learning to like diagnose injury, not diagnose, but, as a student
Once you
athletic
get
trainer, it
paid
wasn't
for it.
like,
Yeah.
but like I'm around these athletes, these actual collegiate athletes. I'm like, holy shit, this is cool. Like
Yeah.
I'm involved in sport, which I love, but I get to be on the side of kind of performance. And I would, I'd be sitting on the sidelines at the women's basketball games because they were my team. So like I was their main athletic trainer. So I'd be there as their student athletic trainer. Like, it was really cool. I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Um,
I never forget the first time I got paid to coach someone rowing. And I had been bouncing around part-time jobs, KFC, stage setup, all sorts of stuff. And then I got £12 for doing a kind of coaching session. I was like, this is what? Like, I was like,
hooked.
money? Like money for this? That was enjoyable. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
awesome.
Um, so I realize I've taken this question and stretched it here, but
No, it's
um,
interesting.
essentially, as far as sport goes, like I still wasn't great at anything for sports. I was playing club baseball and it was fun. We were self-coached, but we weren't great. I was just having fun playing, like still having sport in my life. And at the end of my sophomore year, my second year there, um, I realized, oh, my grades are good enough to transfer schools. Like if I wanted to go to a school that was a good academic school, which this school was not necessarily known for academics. It was a beautiful location, beautiful campus in the mountains, skiing. It was fantastic. But as far as academics goes, I was like, I could change schools, and I always had this idea that I wanted to go to California for school. And so I started applying last minute to schools in California. It was spring semester and I was applying for fall semester. Way too late. But I tried anyways. And then, this is like just as the internet is starting to like become more prevalent. So this is 2005,
Okay.
2004, 2005. So like you can do a little bit of research and like you can print out an application, but you're not getting great digital pictures about what this place looks like. So I applied to the University of San Diego. I don't know a thing about the campus, never been there. Looks pretty enough. I don't know where in San Diego it is. I apply and I get waitlisted. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to sell everything I own that doesn't fit in my car and I'm going to move out west while I wait to find
Wow.
out. So I finish that semester. We go into summer. I literally sell anything that doesn't fit in my car. And here's where this comes
What? That's a
back.
huge, hold on, that's a huge risk. What
It
drove you
was.
to go for that?
Um, I didn't have any other options. I didn't. It was one of those like I'm gonna jump off the cliff and I'm
Figure it
gonna
out.
hope that I have wings, and uh, and I'll figure it out. If I don't get into this school because I'd only applied to the one, I was like, if I don't get into this school, I'll jump off the cliff again. I'll figure out whatever that next step is. And I had lined up a job at a hospital in Mexico. Um, and as like a total grunt, I was a lab tech working in their lab because I thought I was going to switch over to biology and go like way more
Right.
the science route. So I got this job in Mexico. That's where I'm heading because it's just across the border from San Diego. So I was like, I'll go live in Mexico for the summer, work at this hospital, and I'll wait. I'll wait until I find out. And so yeah, but I have this visceral memory. I'm leaving Gunnison, Colorado, where this college is, and I look in my rear view mirror, and it's like there goes the first everything that I've ever known. Right, like 2 years on my own. I love this town. It's beautiful. It's amazing. I have friends here, and I'm just leaving it all behind and just starting fresh again. But the thing that I remember is going, God, whatever comes next, I hope that I find please just give me the thing that I'm a natural at. Because I had never found anything where I was just gifted, like nothing came easy to me. Everything was hard work. Nothing had ever like just been like, oh, you were meant to do this. And I had that, I was like, God, I hope I find what's next. And it's like the thing that I'm supposed to do. And I guess maybe the question was, how did you fall in love with it? Why did you fall in love with it so quickly? And I think I was so ripe for the answer of what's next for me.
Mm.
And that question, like still lingering in my head, I'm 9 months post leaving Gunnison, Colorado. And all of a sudden I have this kind of natural affinity in my first erg test. Like it was enough that, the coaches were like, "Ooh," not just like, all right, we'll give him a shot.
Hmm.
And then within 6 months, I'm stroking the novice eight and we're seeing success. Like we've got a few wins under our belt, we've got a few jerseys. And I think a piece of why I fell in love with it so quickly was like, this is an entirely new discipline for me. I am throwing myself wholly into it because I got nothing else.
And you
I'm like,
can, it's a sport that you can throw everything into, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. And I'm like,
Great
okay,
input output.
I'm new to the town. I'm not from California. I'm still making friends. I got nothing to like grab onto, but rowing is here for me to grab onto.
Yeah.
And I'm watching guys weed out, like dropping like flies like they do in a novice program. And and there's something about the like I will outlast everybody that became like a thing for me. And so I was like, let these guys roll out. I will be here and I will thrive and I will figure out how to make this thing as good as it can be. So I guess maybe that's where my love of rowing came from. It was the first thing that ever felt natural to me, I guess.
Awesome. Yeah.
Long
Yeah,
answer to a short question.
and maybe, yeah, I think from what I'm hearing as well is it's just something when you're quite a dedicated person or you're almost desperate in a way for that thing. It's what I've always said about rowing is that I feel like it's probably the biggest sport that has the strongest relationship between what you get out of it versus what you put into it. And that's
Oh
part of
yeah.
the reason I kind of always joke I find golf so frustrating because you can't just focus more or push harder. It's like with rowing, if you watch more video, if you learn more, if you train harder, generally if you train harder, if you focus more on your strokes, you get more out of it. So it's something you can go into like relatively raw, with less potential, and just like you said, like have that, I'm not going to drop mentality, and you can get a lot out of it.
Yeah. And there's seemingly no end to how much you can learn, right? Like the longer you're around it, the
Mhm.
longer you're like, I still know nothing. I still humble myself to the process of
Yeah.
trying to be better, of figuring out how to eliminate that tiny little hitch in my grip or
Mhm.
just that tiny like, oh, my take up on the pressure once my oar's in the water is like split second too late, or I'm not
Yeah.
putting enough pressure early on. And like it's always you're still how long have we been doing this? I don't know about you, but like I'm still constantly analyzing what I'm doing.
I think the day that you do, if you were to perfect it one day, would be a sad day
Yeah.
if you had it all
Yeah.
figured out. Like that's what keeps you focused. That's what keeps you honest. So my objective was always like every coach I work with, I'm going to get to a point where if they say, I don't know what else to say to you, but as you said, that's just per coach. There's so many different just techniques and methods. And I had Fintan McCarthy, the Irish rower, and he talked about how they are just constantly tinkering with their setup and changing things and changing the rig and changing their training style and changing what zones they're in. And, they're just kind of by doing that, they're always finding progress, but there's never that sense of mastery. So, okay. So like you had that success in your novice crew. And then I'm guessing you kind of rode you were in the program for the rest of your time in San Diego.
Yeah. Stayed with it. We had, and I guess this now leads into like where the Dark Horse name came from, but we as a novice group did great that whole season, enough that we sent our eight to Dad Vales in Philly. And it was the first East Coast race that our coach had ever taken a crew to. And we were like, okay, we're the shit. Like,
Yeah.
we're novice eight. Like, you know, look at us. And we went to Dad Vales, and we were I think the only West Coast team there amongst a bunch of Northeast like elites. And we took bronze in the
Nice.
novice eight, and we were like, oh, we are the shit. Like, we're pretty good.
Yeah.
Mind you, our varsity brought a 4 or an 8, I can't remember, and they just got whomped. Our varsity had been like kind of a nothing burger all season. They were not motivated, not that great. I was friends with them because my coach had taken me out of the novice group and put me into the varsity 8. So I had been rowing in the varsity 8 all season as a novice, and then got pulled back in for Dad Vales, thankfully. Um, and so we win, or we take bronze, novice 8. Varsity comes up to us and goes, "Hey, that was cool and all, but like, don't get used to that because that's not what this program does. This isn't a winning
Oh,
program. So like,
oh,
get ready
shut
for
up.
a lot of nothing burger from here on out." And we were
Oh,
like,
shut up.
"What?
Someone was
Okay."
jealous.
And so like as our group,
That would have
that just
pissed me
like,
off. Oh yeah.
oh, dude, it made
I
us so
love
mad.
that.
But
I love that stuff though. I
it
love proving people wrong.
reinforced like us being a tight knit group because we were like,
Yeah.
screw those guys. We will come back. It was like just amongst ourselves. We're like, everybody train your asses off this summer. We're coming back and we're taking
Yes.
the varsity 8 next year.
I just
And
got
that's what we did.
goosebumps.
Oh, dude, it was so because it was like these guys don't give a shit. They've spent 3 or 4 years under our coach, also part of the whole dark horse thing that like he just didn't have the resources to be a great coach. He was a good coach that had
Uh-huh.
been there for 25 years, but was not a successful coach. He was a good coach to just keep a program at level. But the only success the team had ever seen was when he would just happen to have a talented group of
Yeah.
individuals that showed up and motivated themselves, and that was us. And so we came back the next year, took the varsity 8, moved all those guys to the JV. At which point, most of them quit, and then we
Yes.
just stuck together for the next 4 years. And we that year, this is like in the run of when Cal was winning all the IRA championships
Okay, yeah.
on repeat, and we were like, we want to compete against Cal, and our coach was like, whoa, 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 let's look at I don't know LMU, Loyola Marymount, tiny little school like up in Los Angeles. And we're like, what are you talking? Like, coach, we need a North Star. We have to get better. We want to be great and we want to go to IRAs. And he was like, we haven't been there before. It's probably not going to happen. And we were like, oh my God. So we basically took the next 3 years, designed our own training program,
Oh,
kind of
really?
mutinied against the coach because we couldn't get him fired. Uh, we tried after our junior year. We basically said the whole varsity was like, we quit if you don't fire the coach. And they're like, oh, well, we can't fire him. And we ended up having meetings all summer because we all stayed in San Diego, joined San Diego Rowing Club during the summer. So we would row with the rowing club at
Wow.
5 a.m. We would get done. We would all go up to campus, lift in the gym from like 7:30 to 9, and then everybody would go to their summer classes or jobs or whatever. And that was our junior summer. So because
Wow.
we wanted to go to IRAs, but we would sit down once a week with the athletic director at school and our varsity. I think 6 of us had stayed. 2 guys had to leave, and the 6 of us and the athletic director and our coach, and we would write down what our training plan was going to be that year while he just sat there and had to listen.
Wow,
And
that's
at
bizarre.
the end of the summer, he had to sign a contract saying that he would abide by the training program that we had laid out because he wasn't pushing us enough.
That's wild.
And so that's like just a piece of the story as to where the Dark Horse name came from.
But
Like it
then
always felt like,
just while you're on that as well, good
yeah,
example of sometimes people who maybe like to blame or use a coach or limiting resources as a reason to why you can't progress. And I think that's maybe a good example. Of course, there's a lot of things to consider, but of taking the initiative yourself, and it doesn't have to be arguing with a coach. I guess maybe that's what you were doing, but you can find other clubs in the local area if you're lucky, or you can go to the gym, or you can write your own program, or you can do your extra training. You don't have to. And again, I don't want to say that people are wrong to blame plenty of coaches out there that are responsible for a lot of damage, but at the same time, you can take the initiative yourselves, like you guys have, which was cool to see.
yeah, to that point, like nobody knows everything, you know. Everybody's valuable. Everybody can learn. And sometimes people just don't have the resources. And I think now as an adult looking back on that, like I don't blame him.
Hmm.
Like at the time it was we were like, what the hell? Like we were so frustrated because we had this desire to go compete with the big dogs. And we we're this tiny little private Catholic school with 12 athletes. We had 12 varsity athletes. We had an eight and a four. We didn't have four eights
Yeah.
like these, like Cal, Stanford, Washington have, where like, one guy's out, plug in the next one. We didn't have any depth. If one guy in the varsity eight got injured, the whole plan was ruined. And so like we forced each other to sign contracts of like no drinking, no
Oh, wow,
drugs,
cool.
no anything for 2 years straight. We allowed ourselves like assigned party days. we so we basically said like as a team, we will party like once a semester together. All like contract is null and void for that day.
Only rowers
And
would find that fun.
oh man, it was great. It was
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
But like we all abided by it, right? And
Cool.
and these are guys who enjoyed, you know, illicit drugs and alcohol and like we we committed hard to each other and in the end we saw success. We went to IRAs and we didn't even end up in the fourth final. We were in the third final, beat out our crosstown rivals UCSD to get into that third final. It was like everything that we could have hoped for. And it was just this, obviously had its ups and downs, but it was like a really magical 4 years of
Yeah, it
like,
sounds like
look
it
at
was
what's
cool.
possible when you decide where you want to go and any limiting factors that might be involved, you just like move them to the side and figure out how to replace it with something better. Um, yeah.
How like that journey for you must have been huge in terms of kind of finding your thing then and your sport and that thing that you were searching for before you found rowing.
Yeah, immensely. Yeah, it was like, how do you not love a thing when you have that much truly blood, sweat, tears baked in over 4 years? Like you can't not have this deep seated connection to the thing because you've given it everything.
Hmm.
When we weren't training together, we were studying together. When we were studying together, we were rooming together. If one guy's roommate sucked and like was making it hard for him to sleep, we would just go steal a mattress from an empty dorm room and put it in our team room, and the dude would sleep on the floor so that we could all support each other. Like it was, you don't come away from that a changed person. And a lot, I think we all matured through that as well. Like college really did what it was supposed to in that 4 years. We were
Yeah.
all good students. We were consistently the top GPA performing sport at school because we wouldn't let each other not study. It was like we held our
Cool.
own study halls at the coffee shop where like all of us were expected to be there, and it was us. Just it was us telling each other we better be good students and we better be good athletes. And it was like we had to adult ourselves through that process.
Do you still keep
Uh,
in touch with them?
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
I bet.
There's
Yeah.
just like a roaming group chat that, sometimes it goes dark for a month, sometimes it's active for 2 weeks straight. It just,
Any shout out? Do you
um,
think they'll be listening? Any shout outs you want to make?
yeah, I don't know, man. Like, well, I mean, shout out to all of them. Like, I can't really pick one out of the
Shout
group.
out Shane's crew of
Yeah, yeah. It's
20,
the,
2008 or
the,
whatever.
the two, we'll call it the like '08 to 2010, 2011 USD
Yeah.
men's crew. Yeah.
The Renegades.
Yeah.
Cool.
So it was, I don't know. It was magical, man. It's hard to put into words how life-changing that experience was.
And I think it's something that a lot of people, I guess, if they're lucky to get, if they get in the right group, that everyone can experience in some ways. And when I was trying to get into the GB team, I had this idea in my mind about how good it would be once I was in, and how awesome it would be, how much more fun it would be. And looking back on it now, having had got in, a lot of the highlights were some of the times where it was, one group of four of us where it was like 8 weeks together and you're always within kind of arm's reach, sharing double beds and cheap hotels and being in the car and long, sweaty journeys. And even just like you're walking to the shops together, you're always in arm's reach. And yeah, you maybe get a little bit too close to each other sometimes, but
Yeah, you can't be
uh,
too close in that
special,
setting.
yeah, a special kind of banter that gets formed. And for me, looking back on my journey, those are some of the best experiences to anybody listening out there. If you've got a crew like that, or a group, or training partners online or in person or whatever it is, don't. like appreciate that in that moment if you can, just like you did there. So okay, yeah, it must have been t towards the end of that your journey then with that crew. What was kind of that must have been a tough end or a tough graduating kind of yeah.
It was rough. Before we move on though, what you just said was super impactful. I firmly believe like I don't think many people in this world ever get the opportunity to experience or throw themselves into something so fully that they get to find a group of people like what you were just talking about.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like it's very hard to be that vulnerable for that long and have not a single part of you be not known by a group, right? To be fully
Yeah.
exposed to that person. Like they know your ins and your
They
outs
know
and
your
your
shit.
deepest, darkest secrets. They know what you're like when you're hangry. They know what, it's like worse than a spouse because you're like even more open with this group. Like I'm a terrible human being in this part of my life, but I'm great in this part of my life.
Mm.
But something about that is like, I wish I wish for every person to at some point in their life have that experience because you become where not a part of you has to hide
Yeah.
about who you are. Where you're like, you say the weirdest shit
Yeah.
and not a single person bats an eyelash. Like there's
Yeah.
something about just being so fully recognized about just
Yeah.
like who you actually are that makes you very confident
Yeah.
in just being who you really are in the rest of your life. Where you're like,
Yeah.
if if everything else went away, if I never saw that crew again, I at least have that window where
Hmm.
I recognized that all my weirdness is just what makes me human and it's okay to be that human.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people really they live their entire lives
Yeah.
building a wall around who they really want to be because they've never let like every little nook and cranny out
Yeah.
to be validated or to be like judged because it's okay to be judged. Like it's very normal for people to
Yeah.
be like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like it's okay to be called on your shit when you say something dumb. Like that's fine. It doesn't make you a bad person. You learn, right? We're all like learning about each other, and it's okay to make mistakes. So,
Oh
anyways,
yeah.
you saying that was like 100%, and I just wish everybody could have that at some point in their lives because it's very humanizing. It
Yeah.
makes you like really connect with humanity when you realize nobody's perfect. Everybody makes mistakes and it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to admit you're wrong. It's okay to like be weird. That just
Yeah.
those things are all okay and nobody's perfect.
It really reminds me of another change in my life when I was younger was when I used to get bullied quite a lot in school. And during that time, I was constantly thinking, oh, if I act like this, if I say things like this, if I make these jokes, or if I do whatever, that I'll change who I am and then I'll feel accepted in that group. And for a long time, I was trying to do that and failing at it. And I realized I'm trying to change who I am and I'm trying to be someone else and I'm still getting judged and bullied for it. So I might as well just fucking be myself. And,
Mhm.
if I still get judged, then nothing's changed. At least I'm being myself. And sure enough, when I started to become myself, I started to find friends who I related with who didn't judge me for who I was. And it's a a big ethos I have right now is if I'm myself and somebody judges me for who I am, then why should I care that they're judging me if they're that kind of person? Is the kind of like rule that I
Bingo.
use. So that's awesome. I think that you had that in a big group of people that you could be like that. But it's cool. It's cool the journey. That would be the big thing. One thing I would go back and tell my younger self. Um, that is to just stop caring about it. But
Yeah.
what's like a question I quite like is what would you tell yourself maybe driving in that car, knowing what you know now, what would you tell yourself driving in that car or selling all your stuff or kind of in that search for your outlet or your thing?
Um, It would just be a message of support. It would be, it's always okay to take a leap of faith, whatever, you know. It's always okay to like take a leap and not know the next step.
Hmm.
Always okay to do that. As long as you set a North Star, you'll find a way. It may not be the exact North Star you envision because that's outside of your control, right? You don't know what it's going to be. I can't say like, I want to be X thing because most of the journey to X thing is outside of my control. All I can control is my day to day. Like me,
Yeah.
that's it. I can't control anyone else. I can't control the weather. I can't control what people on the road do. I can't control if I get into a car accident. I mean, I can try to mitigate it best as possible, but that's my only involvement with the situation is my own actions. And so to myself, sitting in the car, leaving, it's like, you'll find your way. You'll find your way. You will figure it out. You will find the thing.
Hmm.
You just have to keep reorienting to want to find the thing. And as long as you do that, you'll get there.
Hmm.
Who knows when? Might be in 20 years, might be in 6 months, might be 2 weeks. You don't know because, again, that part is outside of your control. All you can do is continue to try
Yeah.
and push with the resources that you have available to you to move towards that North Star. Outside of
Yeah.
that, stop trying to control everything else because it's outside your control. So just trust that you will get there. You will find it. You try hard enough, you make that your intent,
And
it
that
will happen. It's impossible not to.
And that's just like rowing, isn't it? Because one thing I always say when we're coaching is don't ask yourself if you get the outcome on a technical change or on a session. Just ask yourself, did I have the intent to make the change? And exactly like you said, are you searching? Are you looking for it? And that's the thing you should kind of guide yourself on is are you trying to do something or have you been put off by the fact that you haven't got there and you're starting to give up or to slow down or to not look for anything. So it's a lot of parallels there, isn't it? But
Somebody ought to write a book about this thing.
yeah, I am slowly writing a book about all this stuff, all the thoughts in my head. But yeah, that's why I love rowing is it gives you it's something about it. It's this vehicle for self-development and building confidence. And when I started rowing, I was 18. To be fair, I was a cocky 18-year-old, but so I maybe didn't need any more of an ego, but there was something about rowing that really just gave me this sense that, you do something, you focus on it more, you get more. That really just helped me build the belief that you can do things that you put your mind to. Um, but
It's true.
cool, yeah. We're getting into some deep stuff here. I'm really,
Mhm.
really enjoying talking about it. But also want to hear more about kind of like your journey as well. Like, so what was next after graduating and finishing that crew?
So, our sophomore year, I guess, let me give clarity to how long college took me. It took me 6 years. It's supposed to take four. The transfer kind of wiped out a year for me.
Yeah.
And so it would have been five, but then I added a sixth because I knew that we were going to go to IRAs, or I felt in my gut that we had a very good shot at going to IRAs. So I
Once in a
delayed.
lifetime thing. Yeah.
Right. I delayed one of my classes, and my last year of college was one business class, one gen ed, and then
Nice.
guitar, voice, ballroom dancing, scuba diving, and like one or two other
Voice.
recreation
Voice.
courses.
So voice, is that like how, because your voice is
Singing.
good. You have a good singing.
Yeah, yeah. It was a soloing class, so the like grades were based off of our solo performances.
Oh yeah.
It was terrifying. Yeah.
Don't worry, I'm not going to ask you to sing for us, but
Oh,
have
thank you.
you
I
ever done that
hated
in any
this.
of your content? Because you've got like you do have a good voice. I think what's it called? You project well or whatever. I don't know.
My timber.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
yeah,
yes.
no,
That's
I'm a musician. I'm a musician by training, I guess. I grew up. I was in choir my whole life. Starting at like 6. I was in like boys choir when I was a kid.
right.
And then I sang, I grew up in the church, not religious currently, but like I grew up singing in church choirs my whole life. And then when I got to, and then at 8, I started playing the trumpet, played trumpet all the way through
Mm.
leaving high school. the vice president of band senior year, first chair trumpet. Like music was my jam, and I was in band, jazz band, pep band. I was soloing. I was doing on competitive ensembles, marching band, orchestra, choir. I was very musical in high school as well. So like I loved music and I loved sport,
Mm.
which was odd. Like those two groups don't have much
Well, I
overlap.
wonder if that maybe helped you become a good presenter in your content that you do, maybe, and that being confident, standing on a stage, saying things. That's
Yeah.
that's the description of it. That's what it is, basically.
Saying
Saying,
things loudly and changing the pitch of your voice.
yeah, yeah. Other people call it singing, but yeah,
Yeah.
maybe that helped or presenting. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So yeah, then when did
Yeah,
you
so
like you left college then? What did you
okay,
start?
sorry. My whole point being, I guess the reason that all started was our sophomore year, what was my third year, our sophomore year, our strength and training coach left, and we got a new strength and conditioning coach at University of San Diego. His name was Stefan Roche. And if you've been in the world of CrossFit long enough, that name will ring a bell. He was one of Greg Glassman's original level one flow masters for CrossFit before CrossFit was cool. So this is 2006. He joined University of San Diego. So we started CrossFitting. He converted the USD strength room into a CrossFit gym. So
Mm.
CrossFit was big for us at the same time. And that we credit CrossFit with a lot of our
Oh, really?
gains because we were ridiculously fit as a team because when we were strength training, we were doing CrossFit, which was new and exciting and nobody else knew about it. So we were all learning to Olympic weightlift at and like do it under duress. We were jamming. We loved CrossFit. And again, these are the early days when you still would just go to CrossFit.com and do the main site workouts. Like gyms barely existed at that point. And so we had 3 years of CrossFit under our belt, which meant that when I graduated, I went and was like, okay, I got to get a job with a suit and a tie because I have this business degree. Ended up switching to business. Uh, I have this business degree. I guess I'm supposed to go work in an office somewhere. And that was when the economy collapsed. This is 2009.
All right.
So, so we all came out of college and like there were no jobs. It was like
Nice.
every man for himself. So I got a job selling life insurance, and I'd always enjoyed sales and I'd always enjoyed entrepreneurship. And so I was like, okay, got into it, made a killing. The money was great, but I hated my life. I was
That door to door.
absolutely not, yeah, essentially it was referrals. So it was like you would have about 5 meetings a day, but I was dialing 100 people a day,
Okay.
trying to just get coffee meetings. And then I would, you and I would sit down and we'd talk about your impending doom and what would happen if you walked out of here and got hit by a bus, who would,
Oh shit. Dude, I
what would
need life
happen.
insurance. Maybe I need to start thinking about it. Maybe this is a low-key pitch that you're doing. People
Hey
on
man,
commission.
I still believe in life insurance. I still think it's a great product. My policies are still with that company. It's just not what I'm meant to do with my life.
Yeah.
Um, so so we would so anyways, I was miserable though because I'd gone from being a D1 athlete, national championships, to all of a sudden just like sitting in a cubicle talking about everybody's impending doom day in and day out. I was like, I hate
Yeah.
this so much. Even though the money's great, I'm miserable. And so I went, and during that time, I had joined the first CrossFit gym outside of USD that I had ever seen, which just happened to be CrossFit Invictus here in San Diego. Because I walked by it one day, I went, "Oh, this is what a CrossFit gym looks like in the real world. Like, I should join. I need fitness in my life somehow." So I joined. I quit my job after 9 months total with no plan. But I was like, I literally can't handle another day.
Yeah.
I am so miserable in my soul. I just have to leave and figure out what's next. So I took that was like the next jump in my life where it was like jump off the cliff,
Oh yeah.
no parachute, and hope that I'll fly. And so I was like, all right, I got 6 months of savings built up to figure this out. And so I went and talked to the owner at the gym and I was like, hey, there's a lot of rowing in CrossFit. Everybody sucks at it. I happen to know rowing and I know CrossFit. Do you think I could start teaching here at the gym? And
What
and
year is
they
this? 2010,
yeah,
2011?
this is 2009. I guess this would be just the beginning of 2010, um, or like spring to summer of 2010. Um, and so they said, sure, put on a seminar for the coaches. We will judge whether or not we think you're good enough at coaching this thing. And if we think you're decent, yeah, we'll let you start working with the members. And I did. They did.
And you're
And I
like,
started.
buddy, I went to IRAs.
Yeah.
Probably believe.
Yeah, but I'd also never coached before. So, here I
Mm,
am, a 22-year-old, like
true.
coaching a bunch of like 30-year-old professional coaches who have been doing this for, some odd years now and are very competent coaches, true coaches, not like trainers, like these
Yeah.
guys give lots of shits about human anatomy and physiology and performance. And I'm really grateful that Invictus is the gym I landed in, because had I not landed there, my whole career trajectory would have been different. So I got the green light and I started coaching, um, rowing specifically. It was like I was just teaching rowing classes at the gym, and then one of our coaches got pregnant and was about to take maternity leave, and they were like, "We got an opening for one of our like in one of our primary coaching spots. So you would be starting to coach group classes, but we need you to go get your level one, your CrossFit level one certification. It's not called a certification, certificate. And are you interested?" And I was like, yes, absolutely. More hours, more pay, 100%.
Yeah.
Let's go. And so I stepped up into that role. And then 2011, I met my now wife at the gym. I never dated a member until her, so that worked out. Um, we met. She was graduating law school and about to take the bar exam. And post bar exam, attorneys in the States, they don't find out the results for 3 months. So they have to just sit on their hands because they're graduated from law school, fully qualified, but they don't have a certification yet. So they don't know if they're actual lawyers. And so they just have to kind of sit on their hands for like 3 months. They got nothing to do. They can't work. And so they take what's called a post bar trip. They all just like fuck off for 3 months because they're like, well, we got to wait. We might as well go
Yeah,
do
might
something
as well,
fun.
man.
So she was going to Europe. We had known each other for a month, and she was like, "You should come to Europe with me." And I was like, "Great idea. Yes." I had no money. I was like
Yeah.
a lowly coach making beans. And so I went, I should probably figure out how to pay for this. And I had just had this fortuitous meeting with a dude. At the time, I was in this habit, and I think it's fantastic for anybody who's like starting a career out now, where all I would do is I would ask closest friends to me, I would just say, "Hey, I'm in the midst of figuring out what to do with my life. You know me as a person. I'm trying to advance myself professionally, but I like, here's, the direction that I'm going, but I'm still figuring it out. Who are the three people that you think I should sit down and buy coffee for to just pick their brains
Oh,
and learn about what they do to like help me grow?" Because I just come from selling life insurance where all I did was like have coffee with people, ask for referrals. Hey, who do you think that I should talk to that could benefit from what we're chatting about right now? Because that's a big way that you grow your book of business in the insurance world. And so I was like, well, why couldn't I just apply that to my life? And so I was
cool.
doing that like regularly. I
That's
was just
good
meeting with
advice.
total random strangers. And
But
like
you got to be really okay with being told no a lot, right?
in
Which I guess is
insurance,
kind of,
yes.
yeah.
in
So,
this in this context though, it was like so unassuming because I wasn't asking for anything. I was like,
yeah.
I'd call somebody and be like, "Hey, Kim told me that I should give you a call. This may sound totally crazy, but I'm 23. I'm like just kind of figuring out my career, but she thought of you when I asked who I should buy coffee for. I'm hoping I can pick your brain about what you do and how you do it so that I can just learn from you." And everybody
Mhm.
said yes, man. Nobody says no to a 23-year-old that's like, "Can you
Yeah.
just like give me life guidance?"
Yeah.
And so I was
I'd
doing
say
that.
yes. Not that anyone would ask me, but yeah, of
Dude,
course.
anytime,
Everybody
like
call
if
Shane, by the way. Shane, what's your phone number? Put it out here. I'll
shoot me
link
an
it in the
email. You want to buy
description.
me a coffee? I will always sit down for a coffee and help however I can. Uh,
There we go.
and that, dude, the number of coffees that I bought was off the charts. But that investment
Oh,
into
yeah.
just sitting there and like picking people's brains, dude, you're like,
Cool. I
I
love that.
things come out of nowhere. You're like, oh, that's super cool. So this one guy at the time, this is like the era of blog articles before videos were big. You
Oh,
know, like we were all teaching through blog article writing because no YouTube wasn't that big yet. And this guy was like, you can just put anything you want on a flyer and you become the expert at it. And I was like, really? So my wife invites me to Europe. I go, I got to figure out how to pay for this trip. I was like, flyer. So I make this one page PDF for a rowing seminar for CrossFit. I find every single CrossFit gym that exists in Europe at the time, of which there were only
oh,
like 30. There weren't
nice.
many then. I email it to them. The price was not written on the sheet. And it said, reply if you're interested. I got one gym in Le Mans, Switzerland, just outside of Geneva. And they were like, we'd love to have you. And I was like, fantastic. I wrote like Invictus coach, and everybody knew Invictus at the time. IRA athlete, like rower, CrossFit. And I had gone to the CrossFit Games the year prior with Team Invictus. So I was like, CrossFit Games athlete, national champion rower. And they said yes. And I priced it so that it paid for my trip exactly. It just covered my
Nice.
expenses. And I was like, here's what it costs. You guys charge your members whatever you want. Anything you make over my cost, yours to keep. And
Nice.
and to this day, I still like have such fond memories. I when I became the CrossFit rowing coach, I brought the actual CrossFit rowing seminar back to them as like a thank you, and held. I think I've taught 3 different seminars at their gym now. Ewan and
Cool.
Olga Robertson, huge shout out to them. Like they give me my first shot, and I came back from that trip. Concept 2 had heard about the seminar somehow. Somebody must have like sent them my PDF and been like, "Is this dude legit?" And I had a phone call waiting for me at the front desk at Invictus when I got back from that Europe trip. And Concept 2 said, "Our head coach for CrossFit Rowing is retiring. We're looking for a replacement. Are you interested?" And I was like, "Am I interested?
From a leaflet, yeah.
Yeah, of course." And like Concept 2 calls, you're like, "Yes,
You
whatever
answer.
you want. Yes." And that's like, I don't know, man. That's the like, and from there, it's just snowball after snowball kind of thing.
So you then started going around kind of CrossFit gyms, coaching rowing, and then what with that you started to produce content with that. Is that right? And that's how
Yeah.
you.
So yeah, I became the CrossFit rowing head coach. There were 2 of us that got brought on, and the other gal never. She just kind of. I don't think she was really that interested, so she never really took any seminars. And I was doing about one a month, sometimes 2 a month. They would send me to wherever they had a seminar. I was a Concept 2 or I still am a master instructor for Concept 2, and then I was the CrossFit rowing coach. And so I would drop into a gym, teach a 1 day seminar, 9 hour seminar, and then I'd fly home and did that forever. But you know better than anybody. Like imagine taking somebody who's never done anything with rowing and trying to
Mhm.
force feed them everything that they need to know in a 9 hour
Yeah.
window. By like hour 2, their brains are mush.
Yeah. Nine
Like they
hours, I
can't,
was gonna say, yeah.
it's a lot. And they're putting in anywhere from 20 to 30K in that day because of all the drills that we run and
Oh
the
yeah.
various like teaching bits. It's not all in one, but you aggregate enough drills and, pick drills and pause drills and you're just sitting on the rower all day. And and so I'd walk away from these seminars and I would get emails afterwards like, how do I keep working with you? I liked this, but that was so much information. I've forgotten most of it. I remember like 5% of what you said. And so I was trying to write blog articles to like teach best I could. But again, you know
Yeah.
better than most. Like imagine trying to teach somebody the high kinesthetic awareness moments of rowing through text and
Yeah.
photos. It was hard.
That just
And
shows you how much there's so obviously so many bad things about social media, but so many good things, and it's so easy to forget how much of an opportunity there is to learn things and learn from experts. Just, if you got internet access.
yeah. So it was basically that. It was like I started searching for YouTube videos or videos anywhere. I was like, surely Concept 2 has made a bunch of videos about this. They hadn't. There was like the one video of that gal sitting on the dock. I'm sure you've seen it. It's like a Concept 2
Oh
technique
yeah,
video, and
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
old as sin. She's at Craftsbury, and she's like an erg sitting out on the dock, and it's just like
Yeah.
a voice talking over while she just like rows on the dock. And I was like, this isn't enough. Like, it doesn't talk about drills. It doesn't talk about the moment of pickup at the catch. Like, it doesn't talk about sequencing. It's just so basic. So I was like, well, if the videos don't exist, I guess I'll just start making them and
Yeah.
uploading
What
them.
year?
Not because I wanted to be a
2012-ish?
YouTuber.
2013?
15 is when the
15.
channel started. Spring of
I
2015
remember because I
is when I
started
started.
rowing in 2012, and when I would finish training, first thing I would do is get home and type in rowing into YouTube and just watch rowing videos. And yeah, there wasn't many of them. There's a guy, Bernard Stombrowski from California Rowing Club. He
Okay.
had loads of videos, and there was this Aussie guy, Nick Garrett, that I watched so many videos.
Like on water stuff though, right?
Yeah, yeah, on water. Yeah, you're right. Nothing on the erg.
Yeah. No. And nothing that was like made for non-rowers.
Yeah,
And that was
true.
the problem I was facing is I was like, Nobody I'm working with is a rower. They hate rowing. They're doing this because they use the rower as a tool for CrossFit. But to them, rowing sucks. And everybody that's in the world of rowing was trying to like tell these people that they had to give a shit about rowing, but they didn't. And so it became this like battle where they're like, well, I
Yeah.
want to get better, but I don't care about rowing. I just want it to not suck for me. And every rowing video was like, you should love rowing because look at how beautiful this sport is. Like, look at the water. Why wouldn't you want to get onto it was like there was a big disconnect that the two
Yeah.
weren't compatible. And
So how did
so
you go about making content did you address it in a different way? Like how did you go about like, hey, everybody, I know you're not that interested. Like, what's your strategy for filling that gap?
that's it. Yeah, it's like I lead with I'm not trying to convince you to like rowing.
Hmm.
I don't think you should love rowing. Why would you give a shit about rowing? It's not your sport.
But then
But
that's the gateway for them, right? Is kind of addressing that kind
yeah,
of concern. And then eventually, some of them would.
exactly. If I can attract more people to me with honey than I can with shit,
Yeah.
essentially. Like if I'm constantly trying to tell you that you need to love rowing, because I tried it. My first 2 years of coaching, I was like, singing the praises of rowing because I was a
Yeah.
rower through and through. I was like CrossFitting and trow, like
It's
I'd wear my
interesting.
uni to
Yeah.
CrossFit workouts.
When I had one of my first coaching jobs was going around schools and teaching PE to people for indoor rowing. So it was basically the kids that said no to football or soccer, as you guys call it, and
Yeah.
no to the field hockey. So basically people that
Yeah.
said no to the fun sports, and they got left with me in a tiny gym with one indoor rowing machine. Kids that just weren't interested in sports at all. So you always had to come up with new ways. I remember there was this one group that they were doing their football and this indoor rowing thing, and I was trying to the same way get them interested. I found I had to like, how does this relate to football? And I was like, this is going to be something that makes you have endurance towards the end of a football game, or it's going to really improve your kind of posture and your strength. And then that's what kind of hooked them in. So, but I think that's the fun thing about coaching is coming in and just being able to gauge where someone is, and the broader, the better. I think that's the exciting thing about coaching for me.
Yeah. Yeah, because you get to watch a light bulb moment in real time. You're
Uh-huh.
like, oh shit, that worked. Like,
Yeah.
and then you like get excited. You're like, huh? Huh?
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
what isn't
Yeah.
that cool? Like that feels better, right? And the person's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it feels better. You're like,
Yeah. Yeah.
victory. Great. Like, cool.
Yeah.
Like, let's just call it. Let's call that success for the day. Let's celebrate that. It feels better.
Yeah.
Remember that the next time we sit down and let's just go from here. Like, I don't need to like open a fire hose on you. Like, just
Yeah.
we found a point of success. Let's just build on that next time.
Yeah.
Cool.
And it kind of
And the
takes
person's
it.
like, so you're not telling me that I need to love this thing? And I'm like, no, I don't. Even at the end of this, if you say you hate rowing, I still don't care because I wouldn't have changed your mind anyways. I'm not trying to change your mind. I'm just trying to make it suck less for you. Does that sound fair? And they're like, well, yeah, I guess that's fair. I'm like, cool. Then let's keep it going.
Cool. So that was your big strategy then for just kind of addressing that concern that people had. What what would you say are kind of some of the big mistakes that I'm interested to. I've got a few questions actually, but maybe what are some of the big mistakes that the rowing world makes that is stopping them from attracting more people through indoor rowing? So I guess one of them was we're trying to get people to love it because I think indoor rowing a massive opportunity there to get people funneled into hopefully getting out in a boat one day. Not that they have to,
Yep.
but yeah,
Yeah.
what are the kind of cultural differences maybe, or just the way that we talk about our sport that's threatening to the average beginner rower, indoor rower?
It, it's just so important to recognize that, like, people's somebody who doesn't know rowing, their perspective of it is watching the Olympics every 4 years. And to them, it looks cool. But the machine represents just this absolute suck factor for them. If you try to meet them at, I'm gonna get you onto the water, there are so many steps that are skipped
Yeah.
where that person's like, I don't even understand this machine. How
Yeah.
do you expect me to get into this water that looks
What's a
terrifying
split?
for me to
Yeah.
get to? What's a split? Yeah,
Yeah.
what is the monitor even telling me?
Yeah.
Right? So the easiest approach is to just not even talk about rowing as a sport. And frankly, when I talk about the rower, I'm barely even referencing, I try to almost eliminate the word rowing from my
Oh yeah.
vocabulary because there's an association. So it's not like I have to say rowing. People, there's an automatic connection. But the more I say
Yeah.
rowing,
Yeah.
the more blocks I'm putting onto the wall that the
Yeah.
person has to climb over in order to eventually get there. If instead I'm just like, hey, should we just try and
Mhm.
figure out how to make this thing suck less? Do you want to figure out how to use this as a training tool for you?
Yeah.
I try to not even call it the rower. I'm just like, should we just figure out how this thing can be a useful training tool for you? You've already got one. Like, let's just make it simple. The
Well, yeah,
person's like,
that's
ah,
such a good
yeah, okay.
communication skill, though, to be able to not rely on buzzwords or jargon or it's like if you don't understand something, like you should always be able to explain what each of those words are and break it down into a sentence that someone from the general population can understand, right?
Yep, yep. It's, again, I tried to force feed the word erg to people
Yeah.
for like 4 years.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And
The
then
rower.
eventually I was like, they just call it a rower. Why can't I just be the one that meets them where they are? So
Yeah.
I call it a rower because that's what they call it. So now we're speaking the same language instead of me forcing you to learn a vocabulary just so that you could have the right to learn from me. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not that special, man. It's my philosophy on my channel has always been, and business wise, I don't believe that I am I should be the gatekeeper of learning how to row. I don't have the belief that anything that I know as far as how to teach should be put behind a paywall. That's free open source information. I will never hide my knowledge
Hmm.
behind a paywall ever because I'm just a torchbearer in the moment, right? I'm going to be dust in 60 years, hopefully more, right? I'm just going to be hopefully a tree is sprouting out of me, right?
Nice.
Um, so like I'm just the torchbearer for the moment. I don't own it. What I charge for and what I put behind paywalls is organization.
Yeah.
I can help you fast track the learning process, but if you wanted to know everything that I know and how to even do what I do, just watch every video on my channel. I'm not hiding it, not
Yeah.
bearing the lead, you know? And so like my job is not to protect rowing and like make it my baby. In fact, I think that a lot of people might hate me for this, but I think rowing is one of the snobbiest groups that exists.
Yeah.
We're terrible about marketing our sport to other people. And I it is my perception is it is what is killing the growth of our sport. It's why we're having to look to other areas like coastal to try and grow rowing because it's kind of a dying sport because we make it so hard for somebody to be interested in our sport. We don't meet people where they are. Learning opportunities are not easy to come by. I travel a lot, obviously. I try to get in contact with boathouses whenever I travel because I'm like, oh, it'd be super cool to row in Switzerland, while I'm there. Guess how many boat clubs have like percentage of boat clubs respond to my phone calls or emails? Like
Yeah.
5%. They list an email on the website and then never respond to the email
Yeah.
when I email and I'm like, hey, I'd love to drop in for a row. Like, when are your practices? Crickets.
Yeah.
You
Yeah. You
like
know,
if
that's
you're
one
if
thing.
you're a dude, if you're a beginner, imagine being a 40-year-old
Yeah.
woman who wants to learn how to row and is like, yo, rowing looks awesome. I'm ready to take the plunge. She calls, nobody answers. She emails, nobody responds. So what's left? She has to show up to the boathouse. But guess what? Their open hours aren't posted online. So she kind of takes a gamble and just shows up to the boathouse one day. Okay? Let's assume that the boathouse just happens to be open and people are there at that time. What is she greeted by? A bunch of sweaty individuals in skin tight clothing, some with shirts on, some with shirts off, that are tall. Let's say that she's 5'2", right? And she's like
Yeah.
been sedentary for 5 years. She's
That's,
met
yeah.
by a bunch of shirtless people that are either soaking wet or covered in sweat in wearing nothing but spandex that just kind of stare at her like she doesn't belong.
Hmm.
And there's no office. You're like, where am I? And where's the office? It's at the back of the boathouse bay. Do you think that she feels comfortable in any way walking through that crowd of people milling about at the boathouse door, all the way past all the boats, and poking her head into an office to talk to a guy that doesn't even say hi when she puts her head in the door? It just looks at her like, what are you doing here? How are we supposed to grow a sport with that?
So what would you say, what's something that all clubs could do right now that could change, maybe a couple things on their website or posters on their door or anything at all like that? They could change, in the next 24 hours that would maybe welcome people to their club a little bit more.
I would, here's my take. I think there needs to be two things that happen for a club that cares, right? That wants to proactively try to grow the sport of rowing. Number one, you have to put somebody in charge of responding to phone calls, and emails. And there needs to be a 6 hour turnaround time on that. It should be an
Hmm.
expectation that within 6 hours, somebody receives a response. If they call and leave a message, you call them back. And if they send an email within 6 hours, you respond. Even if to
Communication.
say, hey, sorry, we'll get back to you tomorrow, and then actually get back to them tomorrow. And then the second piece of that is you have to have a learn to row program that runs on some kind of regular interval.
Yeah.
Whether it's a once a week group that goes out, that's just like your learn to row group, and you're always just running drills, whether it's on the ergs or, on a half and half split boat of your advanced rowers, and they're willing to commit to being in a boat with total novices, or if you have a barge or you're doing dock row, you have a sliding seat on a dock, whatever it may be. But you have to have an onboarding program of any kind, even if you just run it quarterly. And
Yeah.
it's a 2 week onboarding program. Have it on your books so that when somebody calls and is interested, you can point to it and go, cool, we do a learn to row program every quarter. It's 2 weeks, 2 days a week for 2 weeks. Here's the next start date. Can I count you in? Let me collect your credit card. Let me get your buy-in. Here's the schedule. Here's the time. Bob's your uncle.
Gosh. Yeah. Simple
Like those
stuff.
two things would.
Communication and just a bit of structure. Yeah. Awesome. And it's such a good sport for people getting into the amount of people, even just that we coach that are mainly masters, and they come in and they said, my son or daughter started rowing at high school or college, spending more time around the boat bay or whatever, and just naturally joined one of the learn to row. So there's such an opportunity. I remember actually when I was playing hockey over here in Scotland, and there was a beginner on the ice, and he was talking about how he was Canadian, but it was actually easier for him to start as a beginner as an adult in Scotland versus Canada, because in Canada so many people started from a young age. There weren't any beginner adult programs, so there is such an opportunity with rowing. For some reason, it attracts a lot of people. So Yeah, there's a big chance there that definitely needs to be funneled down. But
Dude,
yeah,
it's like they're just it. I I feel like it comes off because I'm very passionate about this particular topic. I'm extremely passionate because I want to see rowing grow. I want to see rowing grow. I love rowing. I do. But my job is to try and welcome people to rowing. And by being the person that tries to bridge that gap, I see all of the
yeah,
problems
yeah,
from the sport of rowing. And so it's like this is a complaint of passion about our sport rather than like a trying to
yeah,
tear down the sport.
yeah,
And so like I would welcome any club to get in contact with me and be like, help us design a program. Like
yeah,
I would love that. I would love nothing more than to start like consulting with rowing clubs, be like, let me help you build the bridge to your community. Wouldn't it be
yeah,
nice to have 20 more members a year? Think of
yeah,
how many more boathouse repairs you could do, or how many more boats you could buy by having just 20 people join your
yeah.
club. Doesn't that sound nice?
Yeah, yeah, it is. Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity there. Yeah, and then also, so Shane, you're getting close to the kind of time here. Maybe you need to do a part two or something, but
Do it.
would love to hear like what's going on at Dark Horse Rowing? What are you up to? Anybody listening out there, like how can and then yeah, kind of following up to that, how can they connect with you or get in touch?
So we just dropped a new like get started ebook. It's like a 47 page ebook. I think it's got a I think it has a like get started training plan in it. It links to an in sequence, like I said, the stuff that I put behind the paywall is like let me let me organize it for you. It's that,
Yeah.
but it's free.
Okay.
If you go to the darkhorsemethod.com or
I'll link it in
darkhorsemethod.com,
the bio as well.
yeah, it's an
And
ebook, totally free.
and maybe that's something rowing clubs could are they welcome to use that?
Oh, 100%. Like download it, share it. Or, again, if you're a rowing club and you're like, help us help our community, just
Yeah.
email me.
That could be something
So
structured in well with like a sort of like someone inquires and they're wanting to get a bit of experience on the rowing machine, or
yeah,
something like that. No, that's
yep.
very generous offering.
Um, so if you want to reach out, like support at Dark Horse Rowing is kind of the best way to get a hold of us. So you can shoot us an email. I'm always open to like having a coffee, right?
Yeah.
Like how can I help? So yeah, and then our YouTube channel is always a good resource. We're having
Closing
fun
in on
releasing
300 subs.
fun videos right now, dude. That is wild to me. My wildest dreams, I never thought I'd cross 50,000. So it's pretty crazy to be at
Crazy.
300,000.
I'm at 2.25 thousand right now. So I'm closing on you quickly. You watch
Yeah,
out.
I can feel the heat. I can feel
Yeah.
the heat.
We'll get there. Maybe I'm a bit too, yeah, I need to niche out a little bit, but cool. Okay, so Shane, like really, really enjoyed that conversation. Loved hearing your story and the ins and the outs of it and the values and everything like that. It just gives such a good background to what you're doing and the Dark Horse story. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing everything and being so open. Again, anybody that wants to connect with Shane, I'll link his socials below, and then also the ebook as well. And yeah, thanks so much for finding the time to chat.
Oh, thanks for having me on, man. I'm excited that we hopefully get a chance for a second episode to keep chatting because this is fun. I'm enjoying
Yeah,
this.
for sure. Yeah, I know. Too ended too soon, but cool. All the best, everybody. Cheers.